Have you ever found yourself in a situation so utterly impossible, so completely beyond your control, that the only path forward seemed to be one paved with the most unthinkable compromise? A path that demanded you sacrifice not just your comfort, but perhaps your very perception of who you are, or who you might become. Today, we tell a story of two worlds colliding: the world of quiet resilience, boundless love, and simple integrity, against the glittering, cutthroat realm of ambition, power, and overwhelming wealth. It's a story about a deal, a marriage of convenience, and the incredible, unexpected alchemy that can happen when two souls, seemingly destined for opposite ends of the universe, are drawn together by fate's intricate design. Meet David Miller. If you were to walk past him on the street, you might not notice him. He's not flashy, not loud, not one to command attention. But if you paused, if you looked a little closer, you'd see it in his eyes, a depth of kindness, a quiet strength that only comes from navigating life's toughest currents with unwavering grace. David is a single father, and his universe revolves around one bright star, his daughter, Mia. Mia, a spirited 7-year-old with eyes that sparkle like freshly fallen rain, is David's reason for being, his greatest joy, and his constant, gentle challenge. David's life wasn't easy. After the sudden passing of Mia's mother a few years prior, David had been left to pick up the pieces, not just of his own shattered heart, but of a promising career that was abruptly put on hold. He traded the long hours of architectural design for the more flexible, albeit less lucrative, world of freelance drafting and odd jobs that allowed him to be there for Mia. Every morning, he'd wake before dawn, tiptoeing around their small, cozy apartment, making sure Mia's breakfast was ready, her lunch packed with a special note tucked inside, and her favorite storybook waiting for a bedtime read. He patched up scraped knees, explained away bad dreams, and celebrated every tiny victory, from a perfectly tied shoelace to an A on a spelling test. Life had its struggles, of course. Bills piled up. The old car often threatened to give up the ghost, and sometimes, after Mia was asleep, David would stare at the ceiling, wondering how much longer he could keep all the plates spinning. But even in those darkest moments, a profound sense of gratitude and love for Mia always anchored him. "We'll figure it out, just like we always do," he'd often whisper to himself, a silent promise to his sleeping daughter and to his own weary heart. It was his mantra, his shield, his quiet declaration of faith in the face of uncertainty. Now, imagine a world entirely different from David's. A world of polished glass skyscrapers, of multi-million-dollar deals brokered over artisanal coffee, of boardrooms filled with sharp-suited executives where every word is calculated, every smile a strategic maneuver. This is the world of Olivia Hayes. Olivia. The name itself seemed to echo with a certain kind of power. She was a force of nature, a brilliant mind honed by Ivy League degrees and ruthless corporate battles. Daughter of a titan of industry, she had inherited not just a vast fortune, but an empire, a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate facing its own unique challenges. From the outside, Olivia Hayes had it all: beauty, brains, boundless ambition, and a staggering net worth. She moved with an almost regal confidence, her gaze direct, her words precise. She was the epitome of success, a woman who had mastered the art of the deal, who understood the intricate dance of power and profit better than anyone. But beneath that impeccably composed exterior, there was a drive, an almost desperate need to prove herself not just to the world, but to the ghosts of her past, and perhaps to a version of herself she hadn't yet reconciled with. She was pragmatic, analytical, and utterly focused on results. Emotions, in her world, were liabilities, messy complications that could derail the most carefully constructed plans. "What's the bottom line?" was her unshakable mantra, a question she applied to everything from corporate mergers to personal relationships. It was a shield, a filter, a way of cutting through the noise to get to what truly mattered. These two lives, so divergent in every conceivable way, were about to collide in a spectacular fashion, sparked by an unusual proposition, a binding contract, and the desperate hope for a solution. A solution that for Olivia involved securing her legacy, and for David, ensuring his daughter's future. Neither could have predicted that this calculated arrangement would ignite a fire neither of them knew they had, challenging everything they believed about wealth, love, and the true meaning of family. Their story, as it unfolds, is a testament to the unexpected places love can bloom, even amidst the dry, arid landscape of a contractual obligation. It is a journey that asks us to reconsider our assumptions about what constitutes a successful life and what truly enriches the human spirit. The email arrived like a lightning bolt on a quiet Tuesday morning. David was sitting at his worn kitchen table, Mia's half-eaten bowl of cereal still beside him, meticulously reviewing blueprints for a small office renovation project. The subject line was stark: confidential business proposal, immediate action required. He almost deleted it, accustomed to spam, but something about the sender's domain name, undeniably prestigious, made him pause. He opened it. The contents, initially vague, quickly escalated into something surreal. An opportunity, it claimed, to secure his daughter's future, wipe away his debts, and ensure a comfortable life, in exchange for a marriage. A marriage of convenience. David stared at the screen, a laugh bubbling up, quickly dying in his throat. This had to be a prank, a cruel joke. But the details that followed, specific to his financial situation, his daughter's school fees, even the lingering medical bills from his late wife's illness, were far too accurate to be a random scam. A few days later, a formal invitation arrived via courier, a meeting at a high-rise office in the city's financial district. David, with a knot of anxiety and a flicker of bewildered hope in his stomach, found himself seated in a lavish reception area, clutching his worn briefcase. He felt utterly out of place, a carpenter in a cathedral. Then, she appeared, Olivia Hayes. She emerged from a glass-walled office, a vision of impeccable tailoring, and an aura of effortless authority. Her eyes, a striking shade of grey, swept over him with an unnerving efficiency, assessing, categorizing, concluding. There was no warmth, no small talk, just a direct, almost clinical appraisal. "Mr. Miller," she stated, her voice crisp and articulate. "Thank you for coming. I understand this proposal is unconventional. Let's get straight to the point. I need a husband. You, from what my extensive background check indicates, need financial security for your daughter." David, still reeling from her directness, swallowed hard. "A husband? For what purpose?" Olivia leaned forward, her expression unwavering. "My family trust, established by my late grandfather, has a particular clause. To assume full control of the Hayes Global Group and my personal inheritance by my 35th birthday, I must be married and present a stable, family-oriented image. My birthday is in 6 months. Finding a suitable partner, vetted for discretion and stability under normal circumstances, is time-consuming. You, Mr. Miller, fit the profile. Single father, impeccable record, devoted to your child, no prior scandals, no ambition to usurp power. You are, quite frankly, ideal for the role." David felt a cold dread mix with a potent, almost dizzying allure. The role? Yes, a husband, in name. You would reside in my primary residence, maintain appearances, attend necessary social functions. In return, a trust fund will be established for Mia, covering all her educational and living expenses through university. Your existing debts will be cleared, and you will receive a substantial annual stipend, allowing you to pursue your passions or simply focus on Mia, without financial burden, for the duration of the agreement. She slid a thick, leather-bound folder across the polished table. "The terms are all here, a 5-year contract. After which, an amicable divorce would be arranged, with generous provisions for both you and Mia, assuming all conditions are met. What's the bottom line, Mr. Miller? Is your daughter's future worth 5 years of a comfortable, yet purely contractual, arrangement?" David's mind reeled. Mia. He saw her bright smile, her trusting eyes. This wasn't about him, it was about her. The thought of never again having to worry about overdue bills, of Mia having access to the best schools, of securing her future, it was intoxicating. But at what cost? To his integrity, to his heart. It's a lot to process, Miss Hayes, David managed, his voice a little hoarse. This isn't just a business deal. It's my life. My daughter's life. Olivia's expression didn't soften. Indeed, which is why the compensation is reflective of that. I am offering you and Mia a life free from financial worry, a luxury many only dream of. The alternative, I understand, is your continued struggle. Her words, though factual, felt like a punch. He knew she was right. He had struggled. He had watched Mia do without. And the thought of that continuing, or worsening, was a fear that gnawed at him daily. He spent the next few days in a haze, poring over the contract with a pro bono lawyer his late wife's friend recommended. The lawyer confirmed it was legitimate, watertight, and astonishingly generous. Every contingency was covered, every promise legally binding. The only thing missing was emotion, connection, the very essence of what a marriage was supposed to be. When David finally sat Mia down, explaining that they would be moving to a new, bigger house, and that a nice lady named Olivia would be joining their family, Mia's reaction was a mix of innocent wonder and a tiny hint of confusion. "Will she be my new mummy?" Mia asked, her voice small. David knelt, taking her hands. "No, sweetie. She's going to be a friend, a very important part of our new home. But no one will ever replace your mummy, okay? And I'll always be your daddy." Mia, sensing his sincerity, nodded slowly. She trusted her daddy implicitly. If David said it was okay, it must be. A week later, David stood on the manicured lawn of a sprawling estate, a stark contrast to their small apartment. Mia, wide-eyed, clutched his hand. A team of movers effortlessly transferred their modest belongings into what felt like a palace. Olivia, impeccably dressed, stood by the front door, overseeing everything with a critical eye, as if directing a complex logistical operation, which, in her mind, it was. She gestured inside. "Welcome, Mr. Miller. Mia, your rooms are prepared. We begin tomorrow." Her tone left no room for sentimentality. It was the beginning of their arrangement, the start of a chapter neither of them truly understood, bound by a contract, yet destined to unravel in ways neither could foresee. The deal was struck. Their new life had begun. Life in the Hayes estate was, for David and Mia, like stepping onto an alien planet. Their small, familiar world of cozy corners and worn furniture was replaced by sprawling rooms, designer decor, and an army of efficient, silent staff. Mia, initially overwhelmed, soon found joy in the vast gardens, the indoor swimming pool, and the endless possibilities for adventure. For David, however, the adjustment was more complex. Olivia maintained her distance. Their interactions were strictly professional, dictated by the terms of the agreement. They would meet for dinner, always a formal affair, where Olivia would inquire about Mia's day or discuss upcoming social events they needed to attend as a couple. Her questions were precise, her comments succinct. She observed David with the detached interest of a scientist studying a specimen, always analytical, always looking for the bottom line in their performance as a convincing couple. David, true to his nature, tried to find common ground, to bring a touch of humanity to their sterile arrangement. He tried to make small talk about the weather, or a book he was reading, or Mia's latest drawing. Olivia would listen politely, offer a brief, logical response, and then deftly steer the conversation back to their contractual obligations or the day's business dealings. It was like trying to hug a porcupine, polite, but ultimately ineffective. One evening, a critical social event loomed, a gala hosted by one of Olivia's father's old rivals, where her marriage would be under intense scrutiny. Olivia, dressed in an exquisite gown, looked every inch the powerful heiress. David, in a rented tuxedo, felt a familiar pang of unease. He was acutely aware of the whispers, the curious glances, the barely concealed judgment of the elite who populated Olivia's world. Lily, A society blogger known for her sharp wit and even sharper tongue, was among them, her eyes constantly darting, searching for any crack in their perfect facade. "Remember the protocol, David," Olivia murmured, her hand resting lightly on his arm, a purely performative gesture. "Smile, engage, and under no circumstances discuss the specifics of our arrangement." David nodded. He could feel the weight of her expectations, the importance of this charade. He smiled, he nodded, he made polite conversation, all while feeling like an imposter. But as the night wore on, a genuine moment pierced through the artifice. Mia, having been left with a nanny, had managed to sneak a small, crumpled drawing into David's pocket, a vibrant crayon sketch of their little family. David, Mia, and a surprisingly cheerful stick figure, Olivia. During a lull in conversation, David felt it, pulled it out, and without thinking, glanced at it. A small, involuntary smile touched his lips. Olivia, who had been stiffly holding court with a particularly nosy industrialist, noticed the change in his expression. She subtly inclined her head, her curiosity piqued. "Mia's latest masterpiece," David whispered, showing her the drawing. Olivia looked at the crude, colourful figures. Her own stick figure self had a surprisingly large, uncharacteristic smile. A flicker of something, amusement, confusion, crossed her usually impassive face. She almost smiled back, almost. Then composed herself instantly. "Charming," she said, her voice dry, but without its usual edge. "Ensure she focuses on her art lessons, David. Talent needs discipline." The moment passed, but it was a tiny crack in the dam. David saw it. He realized that beneath the layers of ambition and pragmatism, there was a person, perhaps a deeply buried one, capable of being touched by something as simple as a child's drawing. "We'll figure it out, just like we always do," he thought, this time applying his mantra to understanding his enigmatic wife. Back at the estate, David observed Olivia more closely. He saw her late nights, hunched over glowing screens, the faint shadows under her eyes, the quiet intensity with which she pursued her work. He realized her drive wasn't just for material gain. It was a profound sense of responsibility, a burden she carried almost entirely alone. One evening, Mia had a nightmare. David, rushing to her side, found her inconsolable. Olivia, disturbed by the cries, had emerged from her study. She stood awkwardly in the doorway, a look of genuine uncertainty on her face. She had no experience with such raw, unbridled emotion. David scooped Mia into his arms, humming a soft lullaby. "It's okay, sweetie. Daddy's here. Just a bad dream." He rocked her gently, his presence a comforting anchor in her fear. Olivia watched, a silent observer. She saw the immediate calm that settled over Mia as David whispered reassurances. She saw the boundless, unconditional love emanating from him. It was a stark contrast to the transactional world she inhabited, where every interaction had a purpose, every gesture a calculated outcome. This was pure. The next morning, Olivia surprised David. "I've arranged for a child psychologist to speak with Mia," she announced over breakfast, her tone matter-of-fact. "Nightmares can be indicative of underlying anxieties. Early intervention is key." David, though grateful for her concern, felt a familiar pang. "Thank you, Olivia, but Mia just needed comfort. She gets scared sometimes, like any child. It's not always something that needs to be fixed." Olivia paused, her fork hovering. "I believe in proactive solutions, David, preventative measures. And I believe in a father's hug," David replied softly, a gentle challenge in his voice. "Sometimes, that's the best preventative measure of all." Olivia's gaze lingered on him. For a moment, David thought he saw a flicker of something akin to confusion, perhaps even a hint of vulnerability. He realized she hadn't been dismissive. She simply didn't know. Her entire life had been about logic and strategy, not the messy, illogical intricacies of human emotion. As the weeks turned into months, these small moments accumulated. Olivia would find David helping a gardener fix a broken sprinkler. or patiently explaining a complex concept to Mia, or quietly making repairs around the sprawling house when a staff member was stumped. He wasn't just a figurehead. He was a contributing, genuinely caring presence. He wasn't afraid to get his hands dirty, figuratively and literally. Mia, for her part, began to melt Olivia's icy exterior with the unself-conscious warmth of a child. She would leave drawings on Olivia's desk, ask her simple, innocent questions about her day, or spontaneously offer a hug. Olivia, initially stiff, would find herself responding, if only with a hesitant pat on Mia's head, or a rare, small smile. Lily, the blogger, who had initially dismissed their marriage as a transparent power play, started to observe nuances. She saw them at a charity event, David gently adjusting Olivia's shawl, Olivia instinctively leaning into his touch. She saw Mia run to David after a school play, and then turn to offer Olivia a shy, proud glance. Lily, ever the pragmatist, still looked for the angle, the scandal, but a tiny seed of doubt, of genuine curiosity, began to sprout in her cynical mind. "I can't believe what I just saw," she'd type, deleting it, wondering if she was seeing something real. The facade was becoming less of a performance, and more of a quiet, unspoken truce. David, the humble single father, was slowly, imperceptibly, chipping away at the carefully constructed walls around the billionaire heiress. And Olivia, for the first time in her life, was starting to question if the bottom line was truly the only thing that mattered. The 6-month deadline loomed, a sword hanging over their heads. Olivia's 35th birthday was just 2 weeks away, the day she was set to finally assume full control of Hayes Global Group. The final board meeting was scheduled, the transfer of power imminent, contingent upon her legally recognized, stable marriage. But the corporate world is a shark tank, and Olivia had enemies. Her father's old rival, a ruthless magnate named Sterling Thorne, had been quietly amassing evidence, digging into every corner of Olivia's life, desperate to find a weakness, a loophole, anything to challenge her ascension and potentially seize control himself. He suspected the truth about her marriage. He just needed proof. One morning, the calm of the estate was shattered. News headlines screamed, "Hayes Heiress's marriage a sham! Insider claims contractual arrangement!" The story, planted by Thorne, alleged that Olivia's marriage was a cynical ploy, a fraudulent arrangement designed to circumvent her grandfather's will. It cited anonymous sources, hinted at scandalous financial incentives, and cast David as a gold digger. The board, already conservative and wary of public scandal, immediately called an emergency session. Olivia's lawyers assured her the contract was ironclad, but the optics were devastating. Trust among shareholders began to waver. Thorne had found his leverage. Olivia was furious, her anger a cold, controlled fire. She paced her office, phone pressed to her ear, barking orders, mobilizing her legal and PR teams. David watched her, a silent observer to the storm. He saw the immense pressure, the potential loss of everything she had worked for. For the first time, he saw her not as the formidable heiress, but as a woman fighting for her legacy, for her very identity. "They're demanding a public statement, David," Olivia said, her voice tight with suppressed rage. "A joint appearance. We need to present an absolutely unified front. Convince them this is real." David nodded, his heart aching for her. "What can I do?" "Just be David. Be the devoted husband, the loving father. We need to project an image of genuine family. It's what Thorne is trying to dismantle." The next day, a press conference was hastily arranged. Media swarmed the Hayes Global Group headquarters. Lily, the blogger, was there, a hungry glint in her eye, ready for the fallout. The whispers were deafening, the air thick with anticipation of a scandal that could topple an empire. Olivia stepped onto the podium, David by her side, Mia holding his hand. She looked regal, composed, but David could feel the tremor in her arm, the tension in her shoulders. She began to speak, her voice clear and strong, denouncing the rumors, reaffirming her commitment to the company and to her family. But then, a reporter, clearly planted by Thorne, shouted, "Miss Hayes, Isn't it true that your husband, Mr. Miller, was paid a substantial sum to enter into this marriage? Is this not a contractual agreement, rather than a genuine bond of love?" A hush fell over the room. All eyes turned to Olivia. Her jaw tightened. This was the moment. The truth, in its rawest form, could be devastating. She glanced at David, a fleeting, desperate look passing between them. Before Olivia could respond, David stepped forward, gently placing his hand on her back. He looked at the reporter, then out at the sea of faces, his expression calm, sincere. "It's true," David began, his voice soft, yet carrying an unexpected authority that quieted the room. "When Olivia first approached me, my family was in a difficult situation. I needed to ensure Mia's future. And yes, a financial arrangement was part of the initial discussion." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Lily scribbled furiously. Olivia's eyes widened, a flicker of betrayal, then confusion, in their depths. She hadn't expected him to confirm it. "But what began as a deal," David continued, his gaze finding Olivia's, holding it, "has become something far more profound. I came here for Mia. I stayed, and I continue to stand here, for Olivia, for the woman I have come to know. A woman of immense strength, integrity, and a dedication to her company and her people that I have rarely witnessed. She cares, deeply, even if she expresses it in ways different from what some might expect." He turned back to the crowd. "This isn't about money anymore. It hasn't been for a long time. It's about building a home, a family. It's about supporting the person who stands beside you, through thick and thin. Mia has found a loving, if somewhat strict, presence in her life. And I have found a partner, someone who has challenged me, opened my eyes to a different world, and who, despite her formidable exterior, has a heart that is slowly, beautifully, revealing itself." He then looked down at Mia, who was watching him with wide, innocent eyes. "Mia, sweetie, can you tell everyone who Olivia is to you?" Mia, prompted by David's reassuring squeeze, looked up at Olivia, then at the cameras. She's my friend. She helps my daddy. She reads me stories when my daddy is busy. And she makes really yummy hot chocolate." Olivia's perfectly composed facade cracked. A wave of emotion, raw and undeniable, washed over her. Tears welled in her eyes, threatening to spill. David's unexpected confession, his unwavering support, his belief in her, had shattered her defenses. He hadn't just defended her business. He had championed her soul. He had spoken the truth, a truth that had been growing, unacknowledged, between them. This wasn't just a husband protecting his wife from scandal. This was a man declaring his heart, and in doing so, revealing the genuine connection that had blossomed from the arid ground of their contract. The secret was not just the deal, but the silent, profound shift that had occurred beneath its surface. The perception of everyone in the room, including Olivia herself, was completely reversed. The billionaire heiress didn't expect love, but in that moment, she knew it had found her. The aftermath of the press conference was nothing short of miraculous. David's honest, heartfelt words had resonated not just with the public, but with the skeptical board members. His raw sincerity, coupled with Mia's innocent affirmation, cut through the cynical accusations like a sharp blade. Sterling Thorne's carefully orchestrated attack crumbled. The headlines shifted from scandal to an unlikely love story. Lily, the society blogger, posted an article titled "Beyond the Bottom Line." A billionaire heiress finds true wealth in a single dad's heart, admitting her own initial misjudgment. "I can't believe what I just saw," she'd finally written, but this time, with awe. The final board meeting was brief. Olivia, calm and collected, with David by her side, signed the documents, officially taking the reins of Hayes Global Group. The deal, in its technical sense, was complete. She had secured her inheritance, her empire. But standing there, looking at David, she knew she had gained something infinitely more valuable. Later that evening, the grand estate felt different. Quieter, perhaps. Or perhaps it was just Olivia who felt different. She found David in the living room, reading Mia a bedtime story. He looked up, a soft smile on his face. Mia, nestled comfortably against him, was already halfway asleep. When Mia was finally tucked into bed, David joined Olivia in her study. She stood by the window, gazing out at the city lights, her usual composure replaced by a quiet thoughtfulness. I didn't expect that, David, she said, her voice unusually soft. At the press conference. Why did you say all that? You didn't have to. The contract, it protects us both, regardless. David walked closer, stopping beside her. Because it was the truth, Olivia. The real truth. The contract got us here, yes. But somewhere along the way, it stopped being just about the money for me. And I think, perhaps, for you too. Olivia turned to face him, her grey eyes searching his. I've always measured success in tangible terms. Numbers, acquisitions, market share. My father taught me that. Emotion was a weakness. Love. It was a luxury I couldn't afford. A distraction. She paused, a rare vulnerability in her voice. You and Mia, you've shown me a different kind of wealth. A wealth I didn't know existed, and one I didn't realize I was starving for. David reached out, gently taking her hand. His touch was warm, comforting. We all figure things out in our own time, Olivia. Just like we always do. His catchphrase, usually a quiet reassurance to himself, now held a new meaning for her. She didn't pull her hand away. What happens now, David? The contract is fulfilled. You and Mia, you're free. I'm free. David looked at her, his eyes full of sincerity. Are we, though? Are we really free of what we've built here? What we've felt? He squeezed her hand gently. The deal might be over, Olivia, but the journey, I think it's just beginning. Olivia looked at their clasped hands, then back at David's kind face. She saw not just the man who had been her contractual husband, but the steady, compassionate anchor he had become. The man who saw beyond her formidable exterior, who understood her unspoken burdens, and who had, with his quiet strength and unwavering kindness, chipped away at her cynicism, revealing a heart she hadn't known she possessed. A hesitant, genuine smile finally touched her lips, a smile that reached her eyes, softening their sharp edges. Perhaps, she whispered, her voice tinged with a hope she hadn't felt in years. Perhaps it is. From that day forward, the Hayes estate wasn't just a lavish residence, it became a home. Olivia didn't just fulfill her role as CEO. She began to find joy in the little moments, sharing Mia's laughter, listening to David's quiet wisdom, and discovering the profound richness of a life lived with connection and love. The world watched, initially with skepticism, then with admiration, as the billionaire heiress, who married for a deal, found something far more precious than any fortune. She found a family. She found herself. And David Miller, the humble single father who sacrificed his comfort for his daughter's future, found not just financial security, but a love he never expected, proving that true wealth lies not in what you possess, but in the love you give and the family you build, one genuine, heartfelt moment at a time. It was a happy ending, a surprising twist, and a profound lesson for everyone who dared to believe in the unexpected power of the human heart.